Hello, dear students. Today our topic of deliberation is Principles of Inheritance under Muslim Law, Part 2. In continuation of our earlier lecture on Islamic law of inheritance, let's now proceed to the detailed discussion of Quranic ayahs. They are also called sharers. Their respective shares have been fixed by the Quran itself. They take their respective shares in order of preference. 5 Quranic ayahs: widow, widower, father, mother and daughter always inherit. The other Quranic ayahs may or may not inherit, and their right of inheritance is determined by the presence or absence of father or son, who are primary heirs. Although the son is not a Quranic heir, but being a primary heir, he cannot be excluded, but can exclude other heirs. Quranic heirs. The Quranic heirs constitute class 1 heirs and are 12 in number: widow, widower, father, true grandfather, father's father, how high soever, mother, daughter, son's daughter, grandmother, maternal and paternal, how high soever, full sister, consanguine sister, uterine sister and uterine brother. Only 4 are male and the rest are female subclasses. 3 heirs, that is grandfather, grandmother and granddaughter, were not in fact specifically mentioned by the Quran as ayahs, but Sunni jurists added them to the list of Quranic ayahs by analogy. Widower and widow. The surviving spouse always inherits and is never excluded. The husband or the wife is the only heir by affinity who is made a primary heir by the Quran. In pre-Islamic times, they were entirely excluded. A man in his capacity as a surviving spouse was not entitled to any share from the property of his deceased wife. A woman, on the other hand, as a surviving spouse, was not only disentangled to any share from the property of her deceased husband, but was a part of inherited goods, a matter between men, the men of the husband's clan or her own relations. The widower is entitled to 1/4 the minimum or 1/2 the maximum share from the net estate of the deceased wife. He gets 1/2 if there are no children or no child of son, how low soever. Illustrations. A dies, leaving behind husband, father and son. The widower will get 1/4. A dies, leaving behind husband, mother and sister. The widower will get 1/2 as the deceased A leaves behind no child. While on the other hand, the widow is entitled to 1/8 the minimum or 1/4 the maximum share from the net estate of the deceased husband. The widow is entitled to 1/8 if there are children. She is entitled to 1/4 if there are no children or the son or son's son, how low soever. Illustrations. A dies, leaving behind widow, son and mother. The widow will get 1/8. A dies, leaving behind widow, mother and brother. The widow will get 1/4 as the deceased leaves behind no child. Islam allows limited polygyny. It sometimes happens that the deceased leaves more than one widow. In such situation, the share of more than one, not exceeding 4, is precisely the same, that is 1/8 or 1/4 to be divided equally between them. Illustrations. A dies, leaving behind son, daughter and two widows. The two widows will get 1/8 jointly to be distributed equally amongst them. A dies, leaving behind father, brother and two widows. The two widows will get 1/4 jointly to be distributed equally amongst them. Widower and widow are the only heirs by affinity, and as Quranic heirs, their respective shares are fixed. However, in India, the position is different. If the sole surviving heir is the widow or widower, she or he takes the residue after taking the Quranic share. Illustrations. A dies, leaving behind widow and daughter. All sharers are Quranic heirs. The widow will get 1/8 and daughter 1/2 of 7/8, that is equivalent to 7/16 by return. 7/16 plus 7/16 is equivalent to 14/16, that is equivalent to 7/8. A dies, leaving behind widow, the sole surviving heir. The widow is entitled to 1/4. As a general rule, the residue would escheat to the state. In India, however, widow is entitled to the whole estate of her deceased husband. Father and mother. The father and the mother always inherit and can never be excluded. The share of a father as a Quranic heir is the same as that of mother, that is 1/6. This, however, is not fixed and may change. The share of the mother changes when the deceased leaves no child of son, how low soever, one brother or sister, husband or wife coexists with father. In cases 1 to 3, her share is extended to 1/3, and in case 4, 1/3 of the residue after deducting husband's or wife's share. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies, leaving behind mother, son and widow. The mother as a Quranic heir will get 1/6. Number 2. A dies, leaving behind mother and widow. The mother's share will be increased to 1/3. Number 3. A dies, leaving behind mother, widow and two brothers. The mother's share is 1/6. The father inherits in two different categories at the same time, that is, as Quranic heir and as agnatic heir, or simply as an agnatic heir. The following cases will explain the different categories of the father. Number 1. Father with children takes 1/6 as a Quranic heir. Number 2. Father with daughter takes as a Quranic heir as well as agnatic heir. 1/6 as Quranic heir and 1/3 as agnatic heir. Number 3. In case there are no children or agnatic descendants, the father inherits as an agnatic heir. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies, leaving behind father, two sons and two daughters. The father will get 1/6 as Quranic heir. Number 2. A dies, leaving behind father and daughter. The father will take 1/2 as agnatic heir. The surviving heirs are father and daughter. The daughter will take 1/2 as Quranic heir, and the father, being a Quranic heir in absence of son, will take as agnatic heir. Number 3. A dies, leaving behind father, mother and grandfather. The grandfather will be excluded by father. The father will take as agnatic heir. The mother will get 1/3 and father 2/3 as agnatic heir. Grandfather. that is father's father. The grandfather inherits only in absence of the father of the deceased. Like the father, he inherits in different capacities. Number 1, as a Quranic heir. If there is a son or son's son, how low soever, and no father, he takes 1/6. Number 2, as an agnatic heir, if there are no children or agnatic descendants. Number 3, in dual capacity, if there is a daughter or agnatic granddaughter, taking 1/6 as Quranic heir and residue as an agnatic heir. Illustrations. Number 1, A dies, leaving behind father's father, father, son and widow. The father will exclude father's father and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Number 2, A dies, leaving behind father's father, son, mother and daughter. The father's father will take 1/6. Number 3, A dies, leaving behind father's father, mother and widow. The father's father, being a Quranic heir in absence of children, will take as agnatic heir. The widow will get 1/4. The mother will get 1/3 of 3/4, that is equivalent to 1/4. Father's father will get 1/2. Number 4, A dies, leaving behind father's father and daughter. The father's father, in absence of son, will take as agnatic heir. The daughter, as Quranic heir, will get 1/2. Father's father will get 1/2. Grandmother. The maternal grandmother, how high soever, inherits only in the absence of the mother, nearer maternal or paternal grandmother. Paternal grandmother, how high soever, inherits only in the absence of mother, nearer maternal or paternal grandmother. Father, nearer true grandfather. The share of a grandmother, whether maternal or paternal, is 1/6. Two or more grandmothers of equal degree divide 1/6 equally. Illustrations. Number 1, A dies, leaving behind mother, mother's mother and son. The mother will exclude mother's mother and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Number 2, A dies, leaving behind mother's mother, daughter and son. The mother's mother will get 1/6. Number 3, A dies, leaving behind father's mother, mother and son. The father's mother will be excluded by mother and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Number 4, A dies, leaving behind mother's mother, father, son and daughter. The mother's mother will get 1/6. Number 5, A dies, leaving behind father's mother, father, son and 2 daughters. The father's mother will be excluded by father and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Daughter. In pre-Islamic Arabia, the position of young girls was worse than married women. Not only they were deprived of their inheritance, but they were also the object of sexual abuse and mistreatment. The Quran reversed this arbitrary practice and made daughters legal heirs. They inherit in different capacities. In the absence of any son of the deceased, daughters always inherit as Quranic heirs. One daughter is entitled to 1/2 and 2 or more daughters to 2/3, which they share equally. If a daughter or daughters coexist with son or sons, she inherits as an agnatic heir. Illustrations. Number 1, A dies, leaving behind widow, father and daughter. The daughter will inherit as Quranic heir. The widow will get 1/8, daughter 1/2 of 7/8, that is equivalent to 7/16. The father will get 7/16 as agnatic heir. Number 2. A dies leaving behind father and 2 daughters. The daughters will inherit as Quranic heirs. 2 daughters will get 2/3 jointly and father will get residue as agnatic heir. Each daughter will get 1/3 and father 1/3. Number 3. A dies leaving behind widow, son and daughters. The widow will get 1/8. The daughter in presence of son will take as agnatic heirs. The residue will be divided into 3 equal shares. The son will get 2 shares and daughter will get 1 share. The son will get 7/12 and daughter 7/24. Number 4. A dies leaving behind 2 sons and 2 daughters. The whole estate will be divided into 6 parts. The sons will get 2 parts each and daughters will get 1 part each. Sons 1/3 each, daughters 1/6 each. Son's daughter. A son's daughter is not always entitled to a share of inheritance. As a Quranic heir, she is entitled to 1/2, and in case of 2 or more, they are entitled to 2/3, which they share equally. She is entirely excluded by son, more than 1 daughter, higher son's son, more than 1 higher son's daughter. In presence of a grandson, she generally takes the position of daughter and is converted into an agnat by him. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies leaving behind widow, son's daughter and father. The widow will get 1/8, son's daughter 1/2 of 7/8, that's equivalent to 7/16, and father 7/16 as agnatic heir. Number 2. A dies leaving behind 2 sons, daughters and father. The 2 sons, daughters will get 2/3 jointly, 1/3 each, and father 1/3 as agnatic heir. Number 3. A dies leaving behind widow, son and son's daughter. The son's daughter will be excluded by son and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Number 4. A dies leaving behind 2 daughters, son's daughter and father. The son's daughter will get excluded by 2 daughters and therefore will not be entitled to any share. Number 5. A dies leaving behind daughter, son's daughter and father. The daughter will get 1/2, son's daughter 1/6 and father residue as agnatic heir. Number 6. A dies leaving behind son's daughter and son's son. The son's daughter in presence of son's son will take as agnatic heir. She would take share equal to half of that is taken by the son's son. Full sister. A full sister is not always entitled to any share. She is absolutely excluded by son, son's son, how low soever, father. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, she is also excluded by true grandfather. As a Quranic heir, she is entitled to 1/2, and if 2 or more, they are entitled to 2/3, which they share equally. A full brother's existence converts her into an agnatic heir. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies leaving behind son and sister. The sister will be excluded by the son and the son will get the entire property. Number 2. A dies leaving behind father and sister. The sister will be excluded by the father and the father will get the entire property. Number 3. A dies leaving behind daughter, sister and brother. The daughter will get one half. The remaining half will be divided into 3 equal parts. The sister in presence of brother will get one part as agnatic heir, and the brother as agnatic heir will get 2 parts. Consanguine sister. A consanguine sister is excluded by a son, son, how low soever, father, true grandfather, full brother, or 2 full sisters. Her Quranic share is one half, and in case 2 or more, they take 2/3 collectively. Existence of one full sister reduces her share to 1/6. A consanguine brother's existence converts her into an agnatic heir. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies leaving behind son and consanguine sister. The consanguine sister in presence of son will get nothing. The son will get the whole property. Number 2. A dies leaving behind father, daughter and consanguine sister. The consanguine sister will be excluded by the father. Number 3. A dies leaving behind widow, consanguine sister and full brother. The consanguine sister will be excluded by the full brother. Number 4. A dies leaving behind widow, mother, daughter and consanguine sister. All the surviving heirs will get their respective Quranic shares as Quranic heirs. Number 5. A dies leaving behind consanguine brother and consanguine sister. The consanguine brother will convert her into an agnatic heir. The consanguine brother will get 2/3 and consanguine sister will get 1/3. Uterine brother and sister. A uterine brother or sister is not always entitled to a share and is totally excluded from succession by any child or grandchild, how low soever, or by a father or a true grandfather, how high soever, or by daughter or son's daughter. When entitled to succeed, a uterine sister always inherits as Quranic heir and takes 1/6, and if 2 or more, they take 1/3. The position of uterine brother is not different from that of uterine sister. He, like the sister, always inherits as Quranic heir and takes 1/6, and if 2 or more, they take 1/3, between them sharing equally. No discrimination exists on the basis of gender. Both male and female share equally. Illustrations. Number 1. A dies leaving behind son, daughter, uterine brother and uterine sister. The son will exclude both the uterine brother and uterine sister. Number 2. A dies leaving behind widow, mother and uterine brother. All the heirs will get their respective Quranic shares. The widow will get 1/4, mother 1/3 of 3/4, that's equivalent to 1/4. Uterine brother will get 1/6 of 1/2, that is equivalent to 1/12. The residue will return to mother and uterine brother in proportion to their shares. Conclusion. The Quranic heirs constitute class 1 heirs and receive fixed shares. They are 12 in number, 4 male and 8 female. Some of these sharers exclude others completely or partially. The father can inherit as an agnatic heir in case there are no children or agnatic descendants. If a daughter coexists with son or sons, she inherits as an agnatic heir. A son's daughter is not always entitled to inherit. She is entirely excluded by a son, more than one daughter, higher son's son, more than one higher son's daughter. A full sister is excluded by son or son's son, how low soever, father or father's father. A consanguine sister is excluded by son, son's son, how low soever, father, father's father, full brother or 2 full sisters. a uterine brother or sister is excluded by child or grandchild, how low soever, father, father's father, how high soever, daughter or son's daughter. With this, we come to the end of today's program. Hope you have enjoyed the session. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.